Hi, everyone.
Hello,
Banshee here.
and Oberon.
Welcome to Tarot for Today, another installment. Divine Dabblings with Oberon and Banshee.
Hi, thanks for joining us again. This is our fourth broadcast, so
Who would have thunk?
indeed. And of course, it is a labor of love for us to do that. And a quick note is that our obviously formerly incapacitated cat, Sunny, has made somewhat of a stunning recovery.
Miraculous recovery.
Indeed.
He's here happy as can be. He does still have a little bit of a shaved paw.
Big deal. His appetite is about normal, and that's the important thing. And here he is sitting with us again, giving his feline blessing to us, as it were. So, once again, we're longtime tarot card readers. I started reading tarot cards back in 1972, and Banshee probably started learning tarot cards a few years after that, though she was involved with other forms of card reading and fortune telling before that.
Cartomancy.
Cartomancy, yes.
You say cartomancy, I say cartomancy.
I say, don't be late for dinner.
So, well, that's our first debate of the night. How do you say that? I have no idea.
Oh,
I
okay.
just go with my gut, you
So,
know?
anything more you wanted to say about our origins and our early experience? Just a moment or two,
No.
perhaps.
Well, you know, we've been doing this a long time. We also don't want to bore you to tears with just talk. We're going to be doing a lot of fun, engaging activities and maybe do some fantasy readings along the way. We'll definitely be reading for our audience as well.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a quick reading, we may be able to do that for you. And then hopefully you'll be impressed enough that you can share that with other people, tell people to come and visit our broadcast. And our broadcasts, once again, are now Thursdays, from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we broadcast again on Sunday afternoons, Eastern Standard Times, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And just a reminder, but our Facebook page, you can always drop a message in there in the inbox. Maybe we might actually be able to peer into our cards and see what's going on there. But that is Facebook TFT Tarot for Today. That should pop up and you'll be able to look at the site. We also offer
We have Twitter.
we offer a one night or everyday reading the night before.
Right. We throw the cards the night before so that we can give you a one card reading for the next day. We call it Tarot for Tomorrow, obviously, because it's for the next day. And we do a little bit of cartomancy to just see. We know that, in this vast universe, not everybody's going to have the same day, but this is going to resonate with some of you. And if some of you, were planning to do certain things on that particular day and the card seems to resonate with you, heed the message of the card.
But that's on our Facebook page, and that's every day, so you can check that out over there, TFT, Tarot for Today. And so we're going to move ahead with the schedule and do that, which was a review of the last several cards since last Sunday of what we pulled for Tarot for Today. Why are you laughing?
Nothing. I just thought that was an awesomely quick segue.
Well, I think that if we're following the
Segue?
agenda, it does seem like we're about on time
About
with that.
5 minutes? Okay. I think it
Do you want to kill time for one more minute?
Yeah, let's give it one more minute. One more minute. If you are here and you want to let us know by just jotting something down in the chat, that would be awesome. Just say hi, if nothing else. Feel free to use the chat later during the time when we would be doing readings for people, because if you have a question, we'll be happy to answer it for you. So anyway, I think that every day we will analyze a little bit of our tarot, or every live stream will be analyzing a little of our tarot for tomorrow's for a while, just to reflect on them and see how maybe they related to our day, so you can get the idea a little bit of what we're doing here if you have not explored our tarot for tomorrow yet.
Well,
And also, are we going to do this tonight? We should do this tonight too. At the end of our broadcast, do you want to do a tarot for tomorrow?
we could do that. It's actually on the agenda there. I guess you intended that.
They didn't have to know that.
Right. Well, clearly, we should do our summation now of the previous tarot for tomorrow's, and that's what it is. It's a summation of the last several cards. So even if it doesn't necessarily apply to you, it's meant to apply in general to most of us. So let's just start off in saying that the card we pulled here Sunday night for the next day, Monday, was the King of Pentacles reversed. Did you want to say something, or
No,
shall I go
you
ahead?
may go
Okay.
ahead.
And so I believe we probably suggested that there's a tendency to be overly harsh, or somebody's riding into something not fully prepared, or they're hoping that they could possibly force a situation where maybe a little bit more straight up rationality might be required.
I'm not sure if I said it this way, but it also has a little bit of the element of a bully, maybe, would you say?
Okay, yes,
a
that
little
is
bit?
true. That
Somebody who
card
browbeats you a bit, whether it's at work or in your personal life that you were going to be having a little confrontation with. And all I have to say about that is I don't know that that really related to my Monday, I will say, so it didn't really relate for me until later in the week, where I did have kind of a confrontation with sort of a bullyish type person. So I want to move on to what is Tuesday.
Tuesday we pulled the Lovers, and that card was upright.
Yes, it was. It was about choices, choices, choices,
Right.
decisions, decisions. Yeah, that kind of was a good point of my day. That was for Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had some decisions to make about, it was basically scheduling things in my busy day. I had a lot of things on my plate, and I wasn't sure how I was going to manage the load that day, but I had to make some firm decisions about it, decide what I could do and what I couldn't do. I'm not sure I really made some of the right decisions in the end, but as it turns out, I got all my work done this week, so.
Well, what is usually implied by the card traditionally is that the choice or question one has to handle usually revolves around being able to choose something that clearly you feel really good about, has a value for you, has good memories, has good feelings for you emotionally, or something that seems like you may get there, but it sounds like maybe there's a little more work required, or it just doesn't sound perhaps like the payoff is enough for you. It's just not really the choice you see yourself making, but maybe somehow deep inside you think it should be.
That it's the right thing for you? Is that what you're saying? Even though
Right.
you may.
I mean, I think that's kind of implied with that card.
That's very good as well. And okay, then on Wednesday, we had the Wheel of Fortune.
And
My
that
favorite card.
And that card was upright, and it is a really good card. It had some very personal meanings for me for years, and whenever it shows up, I always usually feel good. And that card basically does talk about being in the cycle and kind of like being able to see when you have opportunities you can capitalize on, when you can go with your sense of fortune or luck and play the wheel, spin the wheel, feeling more confident about that. There is the slight implication that, there are times where you have to accept that the wheel is not turning for you, or that you're actually at the bottom of the cycle, and so you need to work on returning to the top.
Well, for me, it was all about woohoo! I could win the lottery. It was my first thought. It's a lucky turn of events when the wheel is, upright. And so it could be a matter of being at the right place at the right time. It could be a matter of just, a stroke of luck. And so, being the lottery player that I was, I woke up Wednesday morning and I had decided in my mind already that I was going to wear green to work that day. Green, totally green. Wore this, as a matter of fact, my green malachite jewelry here, and just the way I did it tonight. And the funny thing was, so I went to my lottery store in the morning and went back to my car and car and looked at my ticket, and I realized I won $100. And so I went back in the store and cashed that in right away and happily went on to work. And I'm like, why? This card was pretty good today, I would say.
You
Would
know,
you?
if Michigan State Lottery is looking out there for maybe a new spokesperson, a new angle to, pull in more customers, they would not be wrong to utilize your skills, I think.
Well, it
That's,
worked for me, and as a matter of fact, that was like the second time this week I won $100, so I was happy.
can't argue with that, can you?
Can't argue with that. That was a nice turn of the wheel, and maybe it says, look, in all ways, is on the upswing.
Well, last night for today, we pulled the Hermit, and it's interesting on at least one basis, which is that we had previously, maybe in the last week or so, had pulled a Hermit card before too. However, that time it was reversed. This time it was upright, and so there was the sense. I think maybe what I wrote was more indicating that there is something to share, and you want to check in there. I'm sort of fogging a little bit.
With the hermit, well, I took it a different tack this time because, the hermit's kind of somebody you seek out for wisdom, true, or maybe you are that person. Maybe you go within your own cave. I believe when I was reversed, I might have said something like that. But this time, because the moon was going from, I think it was going from Aquarius to Pisces, but it was going to be more in Aquarius, that I took it a little more social level, and I said that maybe you might be wanting to start a support group, or that you would be seeking out people to talk to, for help, seeking assistance in some way, whether it's for a project you're working on, whether it's for a goal, whether it's financial advice. You are trying to seek somebody out who had more knowledge, and so you're actively going out there as opposed to being pulling into your own cocoon or cave for inner wisdom.
And I think too that sometimes with the Hermit card for this kind of situation, there's the feeling too about how we're going into ourselves a little bit and we're gauging what it is that we should share. And keep in mind too that sometimes sharing what we know also implies that something else could be shared back. And so sometimes maybe the Hermit is saying like he has a sense of boundary, and the boundary makes it look like he is separated himself from you, but maybe there's a reason for that. That part of it is that he has to have some sense of separation, and things basically happen as they're supposed to. So that's, as usual, my esoteric-y kind of way of looking at things. And I don't know, what do you think?
I think that's fine.
That was our summation for the last 4 days. So tonight, at the end of this broadcast, we will be pulling the card for tomorrow, and then we will later transcribe our feelings for that also into the TFT Facebook page under our Tarot for Tomorrow post or shares. So you can look for that there and see if that possibly gives you a handle. And then in a few days, we will be doing another summation of those cards we last pulled for our Sunday broadcast at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Which, by the way, the Tarot for Tomorrow's also post, our Twitter account is tied into our Facebook account, so you'll be seeing it on Twitter as well.
Very good.
So just wanted to point that out. And so what is next? We think we're going to do...
Your tarot reading.
Oh my goodness, is it that time already?
It's already that
tarot
time.
reading? Well, I guess we could. All right. Well, I don't want to use my small deck, so I think we should use yours for this.
Okay.
Now, every live stream, we're going to do a reading for the group.
But I wanted that card.
You did?
Well, I might want it later.
Well, it's going to be, I have it here.
Okay.
So I do have it. Okay, so every live stream, we're going to be doing a reading for the group at large. And again, this is like for the days ahead, up towards the next live stream, or let's just say they're weekly readings, because Oberon's reading is slightly different from mine. And I'm going to do tonight a 4-card spread for everybody that's going to give just a general reading about what may be going on in different aspects of your life. A card for each area, like, for example, your physical well-being and health, your work and financial matters, and your home, interpersonal relationships, family relationships. And finally, the fourth card will be the focus for those days ahead, where things seem to be, where you're going to be putting most of your attention. So I'm shuffling the cards and thinking about it. And then I'll pass it over to Oberon. Take a sunny break and view my cat while I shuffle. And here you go. Yes, our Sunny was the sick cat, but he certainly seems fine now. Took a little while for the other cats to get used to him. You know, I'm afraid he might be the live stream hog. He seems to have become very accustomed to sitting here while we're doing this now that he's feeling better.
Cut?
Yes, please cut him. Well, we'll move them by you so they can be more in the camera. Ah, Sunny, Sunny. Okay. And I guess I'm going to do it this way with the first card here. The first card is the Four of Cups upright, and the Four of Cups is in the area of your health and your well-being. This could be your mental, physical, spiritual health, well-being at this time. And I'll start it off and say that, okay, I'd say set it down. And I would say that I think it's time to take a step back. It's, you know, maybe it's time for a timeout for your health, your maybe your physical and mental and spiritual well-being. The person in that picture there was a cup being held up to him, and he's just sitting back from it and contemplating that, and whether he should accept the cup or not, or maybe he doesn't even see it's there because he's so totally lost in his own thoughts. And that's what it's going to be like right now. Maybe you need to sort some things out. Maybe you need some time to get away if you can. You know, it's now the work week, and we still got a few days left before the weekend. So we got tomorrow, actually, and then it is the weekend, thank goodness. So do try to find some time in these next couple days for yourself to unwind, to relax, to de-stress. Seems like that's what's indicated here. What would you say?
Well, I think that if anybody feels that they have, in terms of medical decisions, received some information that indicates they have a serious situation going on, I think this card could be saying you may want to have another opinion. You may want to see what other choices or ideas are out there. But other than that, I would mostly agree with Banshee. But this is about your well-being, your physical, material well-being. So it could also be, too, that maybe your intuition is trying to tell you, eat one less donut today, or, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, sometimes I feel that way, too, that, you know, I kind of work in a workplace where maybe everybody's always bringing in something that's just too good to resist, but not too good to be good for you. And it can be a struggle trying to be friendly, be part of the office team or your coworkers team, but either not eat anything. So you shouldn't probably totally avoid it, but I've seen situations where people just can't stop eating donuts or cookies or whatever it is, and I have been there myself. So this is just a saying that maybe there are aspects of your health where instinct or other opinions could serve you as well. And I've noticed that Sunny has decided to become very involved in our reading.
Well, Sunny's going to have to be nudged just a little bit, my boy. Except for the fact that now we have that cat head. He liked that cat head.
Oh, he did? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't notice
I
that.
think that's what it was.
He knocked it over earlier.
Yeah, he's looking to do it again, I think. Okay, so the second card in this reading is concerning your work, financial matters, things of that nature, more material nature. And then he immediately covers up the card with his tail. He did not like the fact that the Four of Swords was reversed.
It's an omen, I say. It's an omen.
But it's not a bad card reversed at all, I would say. What it's making it sound like is, okay, there's going to be a return to activities. And since we are heading towards the weekend, I'm going to say that, maybe after you found that time to maybe take a nice bath or, reflect, meditate, read a book, you're going to get out and about. You're going to be doing some stuff. There's all kinds of opportunities for movement, I'd say, in the days
Career,
ahead.
workplace.
Yeah, well, we are on the weekend, so the way I would relate it to career is that I wonder if many people are actually traveling this weekend on a business trip.
Well, this looks more like an astral projection to me because they're floating there with the reverse card.
At
But
work?
well, hey, when the boss is away. But anyways, no, I have a slightly different feeling, and I sort of want to look at this as a in general reading. I don't know that this is just because of the weekend that it doesn't involve the career, but I get the feeling here that you haven't really been away, that maybe you've been silently observing situations in your workplace, and maybe you're basically taking notes and you're wondering that there are things going on that you want to be more aware of. I'm not saying these are bad things, but that there are just some things you've missed, and perhaps you're trying to be aware without looking nosy. Maybe it's close to your birthday or something, or a celebration, and you know that maybe somebody's planning something and you're just being a little bit suspicious of that. I just have a feeling here that you know about something going on at work and you're maybe hoping to find out more too.
And for those of you who may have been feeling a little disaffected at work, things have not been going the way you want them to. Maybe you're feeling unhappy in your present position. This could also indicate it's time to open the doors for new opportunities and look beyond, maybe to make a move from where you're at right now.
Okay.
Okay, card 3 is concerning your home, family, interpersonal relationships. Ay, ay, ay. We have the 10 of Cups reversed. Oh man, I hate to start a weekend off on kind of a downer note here, but it seems like there might be a little squabbling going on in the family. It seems like,
Are we doing the reading for ourselves?
I don't know. Are we? Is there something you want to talk about right now?
No, there isn't.
Good answer. Good answer. So basically, though, it does seem like there's a little trouble in paradise, is what I would say. And so this could be with friends. This sounds like people that would be really close to you, though, by the looks of the card. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's a little problem in the family. Just don't let it, upset your entire weekend, and recognize that this is possible. Try to steer away from conflicts if you can. Sometimes it isn't easy. Right, Oberon?
Well, there's not a lot I would like to add to that other than I think that maybe you just are a little bit harsh here, because I just sort of think like maybe it means that there's a delay with something. Like maybe you were going to go away for the weekend and you can't do it because of a particular reason, or you were going to take the family to a movie, but something happened, you can't do that. Like going to a water park maybe, and you can't do that, with your kids or something like that. Just a delay or a change in plans. I don't think it's a total mar on the weekend, like you mentioned, but it's something to think
Well,
about. It could just mean that there's a little bit of mixed emotions, but I don't see it as a major thing
well, for
myself.
me, I'm going to have to just debate a little bit with you. When I look at the Ten of Cups reversed, and it's okay. I think what he said is very valid, and of course, it's not just what the cards mean, it's what your intuition is telling you to say, and clearly that's what his intuition is telling him to say. I guess the way I feel about it, from my perspective and the way I interpreted it, is that the Ten of Cups reversed just seems like there's turmoil, that there's an upheaval. I mean, it's 10 cups overturned. That's my thing, too. It's like, to me, it's a big deal. But,
Well, that this is debatable because most of the other 10 cards are like that too. The 10 of each suit, that
that's
their
true.
reversal sort of means a dramatic change from previous. So I'll just go with your first caveat, which is my intuition tells me otherwise.
Well, and that's absolutely the point, and that's why you're getting two readers for the price of one here. And the final card, which is the focus of this time period, is the Six of Pentacles upright. And the Six of Pentacles upright, I look at in both a material and a non-material way. It could just indicate, a generosity of spirit in that you're giving of yourself to others and in some way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a material way, but it does indicate that because the pentacles are earthy and material kind of cards. And obviously in the picture here, he's doling out alms or money to the poor. So I think that that is indicated that you might be doing something with a charitable organization in the days ahead. Maybe you'll be volunteering somewhere. This is an opportune focus. And maybe in the end, that will make you feel a lot better about things because there is a little bit of turbulence in these next few days.
Well, you totally took everything I was going to say because I felt like there's a volunteer thing that's coming up, and it's still summer weekends, and some of us, go and do various volunteer things, whether it's going to soup kitchens or recycling places, or maybe we go to church or charity events where we man a table or we do something like that. I think that because this is a focus, it could also indicate too that there are maybe people out there in our audience or whoever this reading is actually for, who are thinking about volunteerism as a new change for them too, that's beyond the weekend perhaps. And that I always see that myself where I work at a public institution where people come and wish to become a volunteer, and sometimes they do that because they really want to get involved in that business or that situation, and sometimes they do it just because they're trying to maybe create experience for building something else, another step somewhere else. Maybe it's to an actual paid employment position. But I do feel like there's something that's longer going about this, that maybe this could also represent something to do with becoming more involved in service or volunteerism.
So if I was to put this all together, I would look at the fact that in your physical, spiritual well-being, health and well-being, that you need to pull back a little bit and give yourself a rest. Make sure you're getting enough rest. Maybe that's basically what this card is trying to say too. And refresh yourself and renew yourself, because there is going to be activity, there is going to be movement, there's going to be things happening, and there may also be some conflicts and turmoil that you're going to have to get through along the way. But besides that, if you focus on giving of yourself to others and doing this volunteer activity, it could do a lot to make you feel better about things. What do you say?
There's not much I can disagree with here. Just my reminder again that the choices that are offered under the idea of physical well-being seems to indicate that if there's anything you are wondering about or questioning about, seek advice from others, or if you actually have a medical situation going on but you're doubtful or you need more reassurance, seek another opinion. This was more about the career, and I do feel that maybe that's what the first situation says, is that you can't really return until you do resolve some issues there, whether they're full-blown issues or whether they're just the idea that there are choices to think about or to consider with well-being at this time. But also too, and this is about the family, don't in any of this neglect the family, because you don't want things to become emotionally sterile or burdensome for others. So sometimes trying to keep that good attitude that everyone else says, hey, Obi, where's your good attitude? I need to take that advice too sometimes, but that's what that card is saying to me a little bit too. And finally, where your focus should be then beyond all this is maybe you need to find a pursuit that really fulfills you, because maybe all of this is saying that there is a little bit unfulfilled going on there too, that the family isn't fulfilling, that the career isn't fulfilling, that you're wondering about things going on in your physical well-being. Maybe it means there's something empty there and you need to think about that. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a volunteer, but maybe there is something else that you give that will make you feel more complete.
You know, that is an awesome point there, because maybe again, you know, this is being the focus card, that this is talking about this here. The focus might be on career and material concerns this week, and maybe that's why there's going to be some family conflict, because yeah, don't forget your other obligations in the process of this. Maybe you're giving, so you know, maybe you are in a caring field right now, such as nursing or healthcare, social work, whatever the case may be, and you're working very hard there and giving so much of yourself there that you kind of are spent by the time you get home to your family. So maybe that's something you need to keep in mind for the week ahead as well.
Thank you for that nice compliment. I guess I even surprised myself sometimes, so that's pretty cool. But I did feel inspired there because I realized there was something I was moving towards, and when I got to that one, that's where it sort of informed the other cards.
Right.
So that was pretty cool, and I liked what you had to say too, because once again, 2 tarot card readers are better than 1. And it's time to take a look at our chat now.
Punch, hey, you.
What?
Fist.
Oh,
Bum.
of course.
Okay, we're a little slow
Somebody's
there. Hi,
asking
Truth
for a
Addict.
reading. Hi, Truth Addict.
You absolutely can have a brief reading, and do you want to tell us your question, or
You could also maybe just tell us also just where you're coming from, just so we have that information.
is there a particular area you'd like us to focus on?
Now I'm shuffling the cards, Truth Addict. And because this is 2 readings, 2 readers are better than 1, I'm going to also let
Theoretically.
my erstwhile partner here also shuffle.
General reading is fine.
Very
Alrighty.
good. Okay. We'll be up to that in just a few seconds. And just if you're just joining us now, we are longtime tarot readers. We've been reading cards many years, probably combined over 85. So that makes
there
me
he
feel a little
goes
creaky
again.
right now.
He makes me feel like I'm 100 years old, which I am not. Just saying. All right, do you want me to cut them?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little close to the mic there, sorry.
Alrighty. So a general reading, what should we do? Like the modified?
Let's do a 3 card.
Yeah, okay. I really appreciate you saying that. It would be wonderful if you subscribed.
Yes,
okay,
thank you
here's
very
your
much.
reading, Truth Addict. The first card is my general reading of your environment around you now. This tells me what's going on around you right now, or where your focus may be. And I have the 6 of Cups reversed. And to me, what the 6 of Cups says right now is what's around you now. Maybe this is your attitude, or maybe this is the situation around you, but something is making you feel really drawn to the past, that you may be overly nostalgic, or you may be overly sentimentalizing over something of the past. With some cards, when I really can pull that out, I might say that maybe this is a past trauma, like maybe something that happened to you as a child. Not necessarily a bad trauma. Maybe it was just some significant event that may have happened, but it pulls you back there. And at times it may find itself informing your actions on a day-to-day level, and you might feel like you're being overly hung up on that. Do you want to add anything, Banshee?
I would say, yeah, there's just a little caveat here that maybe perhaps you're dwelling too much on this. There comes a time where if you can't completely let it go, you've got to focus yourself and your attention on other matters, or find ways to absorb the lessons of this experience, into your present life, and not not treat it as if it's as if it was a total negative experience. We learn in a variety of ways, and one of the things we learn from the most is from adversity. And so, if this is about a situation that was not necessarily a healthy one from your past, uh, learn the lessons that were there for you. There's lessons there, and then move on.
The only other thing I could say too is that if this is not about bad things of the past, there's just a sense of feeling maybe that your childhood really represented to you literally the most happy time of your life. And so that kind of contains you in a way, and that maybe, you need to realize, or you need to also remember that you can find happiness beyond there. And it's not an issue of comparing, your present happiness to your past happiness, because life changes, and it could be that a month from now, a week from now, or a year from now, things would be really different for you. But in general, I think that's just representing the atmosphere around you, that you're kind of thinking about your past more. Okay, the second card may indicate things that you feel are helpful in your overall situation, or possibly not helpful. It depends. You get two more or one more, so it could be both of those might show up. So what we have in that card is we have the Three of Wands, and it's reversed. And so what that says is there's a considerable delay going on right now with your plans. There's something you're trying to achieve. You may feel like you're really invested in that situation. One example could be that you've had some job interviews, and you're waiting to see if you're going to be picked for either another final interview, or whether or not you're moving forward to the next stage of consideration. There's a delay going on there. If it's some other situation where perhaps there's a monetary investment in something that promises, some sort of return, so maybe it's stock markets, or maybe it's situations like that. Once again, delays there. And maybe there's a caveat of saying that there's something you can examine into that, because it is possible that maybe you would have to reevaluate and change your plans.
I would say that considering what he said about this being a helpful spot potentially, and it could be, just because it's a reversal doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. Perhaps this delay is a positive delay. Maybe things
Thank
need
you.
to slow down for some reason, and you should work with that. Always go with the flow of the energy at the time, and maybe this is a time to reevaluate steps that you have taken. Maybe this is a time to ask questions of someone if it's involving, someone else, and you need to find out information. So this may be a time to, use that delay to your advantage.
And I also think too that what it is useful to say now is that as tarot card readers, although we really do feel we are finding information that is coming to us that we can reveal to you, we would never want to say these things are literal truths that cannot be avoided. So it could be that your knowledge now of where the delay may be impacting on parts of your life gives you that opportunity to try and think about a way to speed around that, or to alter that, so that the delay is not so, inevitable. Okay. So thank you for your comment there, making
Yes.
sense. And now we're going to turn the final card, and hopefully this one will give us a final good note on which to end. And it is that card, which is Justice Reversed. And Justice Reversed may be an indicator that there is some possibilities of decisions that you either are being called to make, and you don't feel you have the wisdom or the understanding to make those decisions. It's also possible too that these are decisions that will be made for you, and maybe it's in that situation of the other card, something that's delayed. Maybe the delay promotes the idea that there is a decision that may not exactly work out for you. Sometimes it looks like it could be a legal decision, so I don't know if you're dealing with anything that's on the legal basis. I'm not indicating anything other than that there's a decision there that does possibly not favor you.
I would have to say that as well, but also it's the idea that maybe the situation here with the wire, the situation here that looks as though it's a delay, it may be a delay because of things that are beyond your control, decisions that are being made by someone else, and that may not be to your advantage, as I think you said. And so I'm getting the feeling too that this might be external forces, not yourself, because sometimes with the Justice card reversed, it can indicate a person who may be unfair in their judgments and not looking at things in a more balanced and objective manner. And in this case, I'm getting the sense that this is external forces, not coming from you. And perhaps this whole thing may be triggering some of this clinging to the past.
Justice as a concept overall represents to some degree a sense of an institution, and institutions tend to be societal and tend to be kind of monolithic on a certain level, that they're machineries that pretty much have an entrance and an exit and a process to get through them. So I think Banshee is right here, that there is a possibility here that this is really something that's a little bit beyond your control, and that it may be that you'll have to just accept what that decision is. I don't know if that's a good answer for you.
And also, because Justice has the scales and they are balanced, but of course this card is reversed, so it means that there are things out of balance. I would say to you that, whether you should continue to pursue, whatever it was here that is delayed is up to you. But when you make that decision, don't base it on past experience. Don't base it on, things from your past. Look at the whole situation objectively, because justice is about that too, looking at things objectively and with balance. And so when you make your final decision on this matter, make sure there's nothing else mucking it up. Try to look at it with an open mind.
I'm almost wondering if this is a situation that possibly involves you as well as children, or the care of children, or the care of minors. And I do wonder if maybe that's where the first card is coming from, because this would seem to indicate that you have a lot of care and a lot of consideration for children, or the feelings of children, perhaps based on your own feelings of how you related to your childhood memories. So I'm just seeing that as a possibility, and so I don't know if that means that it's a decision between mutual parents or immutual parents, or if it's some situation involving that, but it could be. So I'd like to offer you at this time, although this is normally my 3-card reading, and thank you very much, Banshee, for joining in with that. Those were some good insights too. But now I'm going to pull one last card. I don't normally do that for the 3-card one, but I just want to leave you with something hopefully that's a little bit more positive. So
well, you never know with the tarot, and
it just
depends where the energy is leading us. And TA, let me remind you, of course, you probably know this if you've had tarot readings done before, but the tarot is like a snapshot in time, and it provides you with knowledge and information. And it's how you use that and how you approach it that could change the ultimate path of what we're suggesting here. So, this is not your destiny. You have the ability to change your future. We all do.
I am envisioning this card as a direction or guideline for your progress in this matter. So I'm going to ask Banshee to meditate on that for a moment and go ahead and pull the card. Oh
Awesome.
my. We don't fool around when we help you out. We got the Magician card, and it's in a beneficent opinion. The Magician card really speaks to self-mastery, to knowing yourself and being able to order yourself. the magician is the natural font of willpower that can be demonstrated in a person or in a character or qualities of the tarot cards. So the magician is archetypal. It really means a lot of good stuff. And I'm thinking that maybe whatever we are talking about here, through that all, you know that deep inside there is a core of willpower and wish to attain your own mastery over things. And I do believe this will be a guiding principle for you in the future. Banshee?
He speaks of self-mastery, and there's a truth there. When I see this card, I look at somebody who has all their ducks in a row. They have everything they need to move forward. Now it's just making sure you move forward, in an appropriate manner, ethically, responsibly. You do have a lot going for you according to this card. You have a lot of resources you can rely on. Sonny wants to take over
Give
your
his
reading.
Feline blessing. He's
Yes.
touching the
He was.
magician card. So
But the magician
Thank
is a
you.
very positive card
you very
of
much for the
self-control
reading, for letting
and
us read for you.
willpower and like I said, he has everything he needs to achieve success. So don't feel that this is even though there are external forces working against you, perhaps if you play your cards right, you'll be able to get something positive out of this in the long term.
my final note is that the magician is truly a metaphor or allegory for a wizardly type person, and that person knows how to control the elements. And so he's holding his wand above, but he is bringing power from the elements, from nature itself, to himself to enforce and enhance his willpower. And so that's what I'm saying here is that there may be other considerations around you, other forces or powers or things going on that you can use. I mean, it doesn't have to be, a spell book that you come across. Maybe it's just a connection with somebody who says, oh, I can help you with that. Thank you for telling me about that. So the thing is you will probably in the near future be able to figure out ways to help yourself because somehow the universe is going to respond to what your need is.
Very good.
Thank you once again, Truth Addict. I hope you enjoyed that reading.
And as a point, we already did a group reading for everybody. So if you've come in late, you can catch that on the video we'll be posting on our channel. As we've mentioned before, we do tarot for tomorrow, and they're posted on our Facebook page nightly. A single card reading for the day ahead. So feel free to go
Thank
go
you.
there.
We enjoyed reading it for you too, actually. That's the fun thing about this is we really do like reading for people. It's kind of empowering to us as well.
And
So
really,
thank you.
we don't have to force our cat to be here as a prop. The cat chooses to be here. It's one of three, and I'm sure you'll see the others if this one's willing to give up the space from time to time. It's just so funny.
Thank you for subscribing too.
Yes, thank you very much, Truth.
We're still in the
Truth Addict.
beginning of what we're doing here. We've only done 4 broadcasts within 2 weeks. But we are thinking that once we get a little bit more on the beam with this, we're going to try to offer some things for subscribers. We haven't totally figured that out, but it'll probably be more access to us
It's
for
coming.
reading.
There'll be some engaging activities with the cards, or maybe we can get some opinions. We do a little bit of that now. And also, I just want to say that if you can't make it for our entire 2-hour live streams, just to pop in and out, we will be doing readings generally for our audience between like the last 10-15 minutes of our each hour of the live stream, and then we'll be doing some other entertainment and dialogue about the tarot in between, and some other readings as well.
So now we're going to go into our next segment. I think we're going to start that, and it might take us up through the top of the hour, and that is a fantasy reading. Who will we read for? And I'll tell you what, we'll make this really a fantasy reading because we're going to pick a card and see if we can decide who that card could apply to in all of time or history or space, and do a reading for that person. So if it's Catherine the Great, well, I warned you. But anyway, here we go. And once again, I'll let Banshee pick the card, and we'll see who we might be doing our fantasy reading. Fantasy readings are not real readings. They could be for somebody that we decide is dead long ago, or maybe there's somebody that's alive.
Well, it's not a person card, so what do you want to do with that?
Ah.
It's the Ace of Wands reversed.
It could represent some qualities, though. So the qualities look like things that are impacting financial or creative or enterprising growth.
Creative or enterprising things that have run amok. Let's say an invention that went wrong, or maybe, well, did more harm than good, could you say?
Oh, so possibly we're talking about the inventor of...
Well, does it have to be a person or can it be a situation? Because
Sure.
I'm thinking in terms of maybe an invention like, the atomic bomb,
I was thinking about that.
or maybe even the internet.
Let's go with the atomic bomb. So let's do our imaginary fantasy reading for the concept of the atomic bomb. And we're going to do what? A modified Celtic, the shorter Celtic wheel, maybe?
Perhaps. So
Okay.
what is
You want to start
what
shuffling?
is the focus of this? So is
Well, we said general, so how do
okay.
we
So
construe
we want
that?
to see what's happening what's happening now. We know now that there's a few things happening. There seems to be a new Cold War brewing. There seems to be, what I'm trying to think of the right word. A missile war going on right now. What do you call that?
Arms race?
Arms race. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I don't want to think of the word because it's just a kind of a sad concept to me that we're doing this. So there's a race for more nuclear proliferation, and of course there's North Korea that has the bomb as well.
So I think that's our question. What will be... Why don't we phrase it in a more positive question? Say, can we reverse the arms race and the need to control the world by threat of nuclear war?
Okay, wow, that's a daunting one for two tarot readers, but let's give it a try. All right, I'll let you shuffle, or did you already?
A little bit, but I'll just do that again because
And
now
you
I'm a
cut
little
them
more
this
focused.
time because I think I've been cutting them, so I'll let you go ahead.
So our question was, can we avert the arms race or possibly, how did I phrase that about the nuclear bomb?
Well, to turn things around.
That's an interesting card, the Seven of Swords. And specifically to me, that sounds like measures of aggression that may hurt at first, but then find a way to correct themselves. Like literally somebody who's done something wrong deciding to make amends for that. The thief who decides to return what he has stolen is a common meaning of the card, but in general could also apply to the situations where somebody decides, I need to make this right again.
Well, this is a positive omen for me because it indicates that maybe this is in the process of being turned, that it will turn around. That
Cooler
it will,
heads may prevail.
Cooler heads, yes, cooler heads may prevail.
Okay, so the first card goes in the center, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's just like that. And we have the Nine of Wands reversed. And that's the card in the center.
Nine of Cups reversed,
The
dear.
Nine of Cups, I'm sorry. The Nine of Cups. Oberon's having a senior moment.
We
This
all
is
have those,
held
even
to
younger
be
people.
the wish card, but in general can also just mean the sense of things being too satisfying to the point where they cause maybe a sluggishness or an inability to really appreciate the comfort of a better life or the comfort of a better world in this case. And so maybe this is saying right now is that what has happened is that those of us who have everything are just so complacent that maybe we're not really aware that this really is kind of denigrating us and that maybe deep inside there's some spiritual and moral lacking due to this.
Well, this card is very concerning to me. What I see is that people are not happy with what they have. People want more. People are greedy and operating out of a realm of greed. And maybe that's why this whole thing is escalating. People just never seem to have enough. And if you stop and think about it with the nuclear arms race, too, maybe that's what it's talking about, too, is that they just don't feel they have enough bombs. You know, they got to have more bombs. And it's just kind of a scary concept.
Yeah, and that's coming through now a little bit too. The quality of not being satisfied, of still wanting more, and yet also too, from at least an outside perspective, none of this is really helpful. None of this is helping anybody. So
No.
the second card is what crosses the first card, and it's always read as upright. It's the Ace of Pentacles.
Awesome. It's always
And
about money, isn't it?
It's always about money.
Whether
and,
it's military spending, the military wanting more money.
And what abates that first situation of people not being satisfied is the zest or the willingness for somebody to be making money.
New income streams.
New incomes. And so our moral queasiness or whatever, our smugness about acquisition is based actually on somebody else's desire, perhaps, or our own in a way, to make more money. I'm not strongly capitalist. I'm not a socialist by any means, but I'm not strongly capitalist. I do believe that we need to have more of a purview towards the plight of others and try to figure that out. This is, to me, saying that there are people who really only think about money, that there's a fixation there.
Well, and that this could also be about acquiring more property or territory, which could very well be. And if you think about it too, in the case of, say, a government like, oh, I don't know, like North Korea, we could say that maybe they're looking at, there's a lot of sanctions and various things against them. And so, of course, they're doing this arms buildup to not be boxed and pushed into a corner anymore. And I just use them as an example, but, there's definitely other examples out there. There's so many people that have nuclear weapons now. I've lost count of them all. I know there's India and Pakistan as well as Israel, have they ever really confirmed? They've never admitted
it. They
it.
are not part of the
Right.
Non-proliferation treaty.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be of concern to most people.
Yes. Okay, moving on.
Okay, so does the next card go above?
Yes. Well, I put the one below.
Okay, and this is the Past Foundation. And it is a Six of Swords reversed.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy. What does that tell you? But that is the past foundation,
That's the
right?
past. And maybe the sense there was that hiding, removing oneself, getting away was not a total correct answer. That to some degree doesn't really solve some of the strifes or tensions that are going on with that. And so that talks about isolationism a little bit, but also too, the card itself, I'm just going to show it one more time in its upright position, is nearly a perfect metaphor for what's going on with what is considered to be rampant refugees around the world. There are refugees from civil wars in South America and Honduras that are bringing people to the borders of America. This is causing all kinds of political and other strife. But there are refugees around the world now. Some of the actions of war around the world have created refugee problems in any number of countries and nations, and many other established nations like France or Germany or maybe somewhere in the Netherlands are all having collective issues with their society or their citizens learning how to accept them or are actually resistant to that idea.
Well, I think that would be my perfect upright interpretation of that card. When I say it reversed, I'm thinking to myself that we're stuck. Right? The foundation at the heart of it was we're kind of stuck in old ways of thinking and doing things, and we haven't moved beyond the thought processes that got us into this mess. And we're stuck. There's no movement when the card is reversed, and that's what that. But again, this is at the foundation of it. So I'm hoping maybe we'll see a little shift as we move on with the next card.
That's pretty good. I like that. Okay, does the next one go there?
Yep.
And this is the more recent past.
Yes, the more recent past.
We'll be seeing you a little bit later. And that's the Page of Cups, who is reversed in this recent past situation. And this one clearly says that somebody that may have had more visionary or dreamy ideas or poetic views of things has possibly become disappointed or has disenchanted and doesn't feel that way anymore, and feels that rather than life having mystical poetic components, that maybe it's really more like a dreary dirge that they hear playing in the background. And that's the recent past, so it could indicate that maybe it's something that will be passing soon.
I think when I look at this card, I'm going to go a little bit broader and say that with the Page of Cups reversed, that I think that people, the powers that be, have been a little bit more emotional with each other, a little bit more hostile towards each other. And this is feeding all of this frenzy to accumulate weapons. For example, I think I just saw in the news the other day that Russia was moving some jets towards the Alaska coast that could fly and hit Alaska with bombs within 20 minutes of, 20 minutes time, they'd be there. And it was kind of, they said it was an exercise, of course, but it was also showing their might and the fact that they are ready to strike at a moment's notice. And again, I think this is emotions, these are tense moments for us right now. And, the world, I don't know where the nuclear clock is at this point in time. I haven't seen that lately, but there's that atomic clock that tells you how close we are to a nuclear disaster or a war,
the threat
nuclear
of it, at
war.
least, right?
And I think it hasn't changed much recently from where it's at. But still, I'm thinking that tensions are ratcheting things up a little bit, and emotions are a little bit rocky and out of control. Even in our country with our foreign policy right now. So there's a lot of just acting out of emotion rather than rationality.
That's very good, Banshee. Thank you. So the next card is more in the future. It's more goalish or lofty-ish.
Yes, potentials.
The King of Cups. And this is kind of a cool way to look at that. And this is, when I look at the card overhead, I sort of see it as more archetypal. I don't say, this happens in X time. Although I oftentimes do feel that way. I can't put a time handle on that. But I would say that to me, that position often implies the way things are most likely going, whether or not that is the direction that things seem to be moving, the actual goal being sought for. And so what I'm saying with seeing that card there, the King of Cups, well, a lot of times the King of Cups could be somebody like from that international or really loftier minded. Maybe he's somebody like the Pope. He's somebody who could be considered a world leader who has more of a beneficence about him. I don't want to necessarily say it is the Pope, because I don't necessarily know that a lot of people hold him in the same stature. I'm not even sure if I do. I think he's a great person, but I think that we have a lot of great people, and that sometimes we have to learn to listen to more people and get more of a consensus on where we're going. At any rate, this is saying somebody who plays the role of a peacemaker, of somebody who's a counselor, of somebody who is fair-minded and open-hearted and trying to achieve understanding and compassion.
I definitely think, I won't say a pope. If it was maybe the Hierophant, I'd go that route. But with the King of Cups, I'd like to think it's somebody who's going to be a creative visionary And it's definitely going to come from some leadership position in the world. I think it's from a world leader who may try to bring everybody together in some fashion or come up with some creative solution or way to arbitrate this situation. Whether it's one of the little battles like I don't know, North Korea against the world, whether it's some other, if it's Russia and the U.S., whether it's some other battles that are going on. The thing, of course, with Iran and nuclear power as well, there's that situation. Somebody is going to step in with a bit of a calmer sensibility and somebody who could really try to stimulate and generate peace.
Is it the Dalai Lama?
Well, it could be. I'm not going to say it's not a spiritual leader. I'm not going to say that. It could be.
Is it
But
Marianne Williamson?
Sense only if she became president. I don't think she'd be able to enact much without that, unless she gets a huge movement going.
She's a man, baby.
Well, remember, we're not assigning
Right.
gender to these cards
That is
anymore. It's more the qualities of the cards because, gender's a big issue today. And so a king could very well be a female leader as well, like Angela Merkel in Germany. So I'm just saying, let's keep an open mind on that. But I'm tending to feel it's a world leader with compassion, heart, and some real creative chops.
It's Jimmy Carter.
Well, gosh, Jimmy Carter's
He's
an
probably
amazing
a little
man.
bit too frail right now to
Well,
take
I
the
think he's a
sun.
bit frail, but he just never ceases to amaze me with his stamina.
Truly.
All right, so the final card is the outcome, isn't it? Or the future. Okay.
Let's just party. Let's just party.
Like it's 1999. Oh, it's past that. But
Okay,
anyway.
it doesn't matter. It's the Four of Wands, and the Four of Wands is upright, and that's a good position. The Four of Wands, do you want to go first this time?
Sure.
Go ahead.
The Four of Wands is indicative of a celebration, of a coming together. And so there is hope, I'd like to think, in this situation. Maybe cooler heads, thanks to the King of Cups, will prevail. And, there will be cause to celebrate in the future or cause to at least feel less stress about these things for certain. But it's definitely a coming together. I think even more than a celebration per se, although that card is very celebratory. I think in this case it's a coming together. So maybe more people will rally to each other rather than pull apart from each other. Excuse me, which is the way things seem to be going right now.
In that sense, the Four of Wands talks about a celebration of coming together. Some people liken it to the celebration or the buzz around the news of or the actual celebration of a wedding. And so in that sense, the idea of different parts of the world
Partnerships.
coming together to wed themselves, to bind themselves legally and spiritually, hopefully, to achieve a better union. So we like to think that that's a pretty nice card. I don't know, do you think I should pull a final card for that?
I have to tell you something really funny here.
Go right ahead.
Sorry. Sonny is looking at my tablet, which I'm watching the chat on my tablet, and he's looking at us on the tablet. I'm sure he's watching it.
He's so clever. But can he hit the paw on subscribe?
Hopefully
we need those
he won't.
likes. We need
Hopefully
those
he
likes.
won't hit the paw on the stop button
Disconnect,
and
right,
shut
yes.
off my chat. But anyway.
So I feel inspired to just throw one other card out there. I'm not sure what meaning I would assign to it.
Yeah, what's the point? This ended so well. Why do you want to mess it up?
Because I believe.
Oh, and look
then
what you
it's just a
did.
matter of time. The investment's there, but it will take a little time. It's running a little late. That's like everything.
This also means plans may fail. And you threw that card out there.
I don't see that. Alrighty.
That's our fantasy reading for today. I kind of liked what you did there. I mean, I actually had that on our agenda, but I wasn't sure if we were going to do one or not. But this makes it more spontaneous. And, we are tarot readers that should be able to answer anything that's thrown at us.
Well, it
And
seemed
I like the way we figured out how to find a question. None of that, by the way, was planned. All I had on my agenda was fantasy forecast, so that was
right.
pretty cool.
Well, the idea too that we were just coming out of a pretty cool reading for one of our chat folks, Truth Addict, and so it just seemed like we got our juices kind of flowing there. Let's move ahead and do another reading. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We are a little bit into our final hour, and so we're going to move to the court card conversations, which we did start that on our last broadcast. And then afterwards, we realized that there were some things we wanted to retool there. Do you want to kind of go over some of that, Banshee?
I do. Basically, the court cards are kind of the more difficult cards in the tarot for people to read sometimes. So we thought we'd do some introduction to the court cards, and I think we've decided we're going to do this once a week now, probably on Thursdays, where we are going to take the court cards on a journey of the Fool. And if you're not familiar with the journey of the Fool is like a journey through life, and so basically, and we all go through journeys of the Fool numerous times in our life. It's basically the lessons you learn as you move along a particular path. So one path is as you grow old, from birth to through childhood, through your teen years, through adulthood, through middle age, through old age and death. And other ways are when you're maybe starting a career. Other times maybe when you're starting a path of education. So there's many paths that we travel that we learn lessons through, and in in tarot it is known as the journey of the Fool. And so the Fool card in this case is going to be the court cards. We're going to take the court cards on a journey of the Fool so you can see how they react with the major arcana archetypes and what would happen if they took a trip to meet each one of these characters in the tarot. Now, the other thing we've decided is we're going to take three major arcana cards at a time, and we're going to take all four of the page cards. Let's say they're traveling together on this journey, and they're going to visit.
A band of merry youths.
Yeah, a band of youth, because pages are the youngest cards in the court, the tarot court. They're like the students. They've got their bundles of energy, but in different ways. Because the court cards are based on the four elements of the tarot: the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles. And so they carry different energy signatures, and they have different characteristics about them. So how would they respond as they meet the Magician? And the Magician card, if you want to hold up the Magician, just briefly. The Magician card is, he is there to teach you the lessons of mastering your will and getting all your ducks in a row, your tools in place. Do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes to succeed on your journey ahead? Are you willing to learn from the master magician? So along comes the Page of Wands. And I would say the Page of Wands, I'm not going to say he's going to struggle here. He's going to come in with a bundle of enthusiasm. But will that really translate to him really learning and mastering, the things in himself he needs to master? He is a bundle of energy after all, and he's young. And I sense he's a little too flighty for some of the lessons the Magician has for him. He's going to have to try to calm himself down.
I agree with that. I think, too, that sometimes he's almost too spontaneous in a way. And so the thing is he may be always trying to put the cart before the horse when it comes to being an apprentice of sorts to the magician. And that if he is actually there to impart things of his own, which is a little bit of that meaning, sort of like a messenger, he may find that it would be better for him to listen and learn rather than just talk about himself or about his concerns.
That's a very good point, because I almost think you're right that he thinks he's the master before becoming the student. Do you know what I mean? Sort of has that.
It's a fire energy, the energy
Right.
that I find in Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries.
Yes, that's true. Well,
Calm down, young grasshopper.
so here comes the Page of Cups. And the Page of Cups is a very emotional sort, you know. Mastering his will and stuff might bring up some issues, you know, that maybe he has troubles facing. Also, but I also sense that he could really gravitate to this more than the others because he operates a lot on the dream level and in the spirit realm, in other realms. So, in a sense, his mind is very open, I think, to listening to what the magician has to offer.
In a way, the Page of Cups is almost the opposite of the Page of Wands because whereas the Wands is fire, the Cups is water.
And receptive.
It's literal opposite. A calmer personality, a less A-type personality. And so they're more receptive in general. They have more of a poetic, mystical, dreamy-ish opinion life. So the only possible pratfall there is that they may succumb to that a little bit and that they may not be able to move into a more active role when necessary. So it's kind of like the analogy of somebody that gets too comfortable with something and just sort of wants to be a groupie of sorts to the magician. So whereas the first card, he thought he was, you know, more willing to be the magician than he should have seen at that time. The second card is somebody who is more of a follower when badly aspected.
Now, here's somebody who I think will do quite well also is the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is very logical, very rational, and probably would get into a lot of the magician's teachings and trainings about will and the force of will. I see it very strongly in the page that wields the sword.
The Page of Swords is almost in the middle between the other two pages because there's more of a balance there. The page is more about intellect and rationality. It's not that these are entirely irrational, but they have different modes that are more clearly their mode of expression. The Page of Swords looks at things a little bit more analytically and maybe judges them less from an emotional basis, but a factual basis.
Yeah. And I think the Page of Swords also, one thing he may have to do is to remember that logic is only part of the equation. Remember, the magician has all the tools here, the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles, and he has to remember to be receptive as well as, you know, just, you know, acting on impulse and force of will.
So that takes us to the final encounter with the magician of the Page of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles represents more of the earth environment, and so the personality would tend to be more of a level-minded person, and once again, maybe more like the Page of Swords, a little bit more in balance between the two more extreme forces of water and fire.
I think the Page
What
of...
does he get from the magician?
Well, I think the Page of Pentacles gets kind of bogged down in the details. I think that he might be a little bit...
A policy wonk.
A policy wonk. Yeah, absolutely, in a way. And I do think that, you know, I think he's an expert student. He would be a great student and apprentice for the magician, but he can't allow himself to get too bogged down in the details.
Right, because his qualities with the magician might be more about roadishness of a way of persevering in studying a way, and not necessarily intuiting or spontaneously coming up with any sort of insights that maybe any of the other cards might. It's not to say that he wouldn't, but it's just that his main application is more towards that idea of study for study's sake, perseverance for perseverance sake.
So moving on, they are now entering the realm of the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is, why don't you hold that one up while I move our cards? The High Priestess is the keeper of secrets, secret knowledge, arcane,
Wisdom.
wisdom, intuitive abilities, So, how would our band here, our youthful band, approach the High Priestess, and what messages could they gain from her? Well, I think in the case of our Page of Wands, the Page of Wands might learn how to use his intuition to create growth in his life and inspire ideas and entrepreneurship. I think that his ideas, he will learn to dig deep into his psyche to create things in the world, to be more creative in the world. I think he would do well learning the lessons, except he is kind of aggressive at times and he needs to tone that down, but also he might be just a little bit too high strung to take the time to go within to reach these messages. He could be one of, I like to call him possibly the attention deficit disorder member of the group. In other words, he may have a hard time just paying attention all the time and listening to those inner voices.
Well, those are more of the non-beneficent aspects there. In a normal situation, I sort of myself see the page being very inspired by the High Priestess, and that keeping in mind that this is a card of communication and messaging of sorts too. And coming to the High Priestess, there's kind of something else going on here too, because she represents a secret thing, so she's bringing a secret thing out to the non-secret realm, and so that's sort of a communication or a message. He kind of digs on that because that's what he's about in a way, is he's delivering information somewhere where maybe the information wasn't, and so his relationship with the High Priestess is more about that. On a plus level, he is more about wanting to be inspired by her and communicate those things back and forth. In the slightly negative response, it is true that probably he would be too aggressive. And the Keeper of Secret Wisdom says wisdom comes when it is time to come.
Ah, good point. Good point. And here comes the Page of Cups. And the Page of Cups, in my opinion, is the perfect person to come and visit the High Priestess. He's ready. He's ready to learn some of this and understand his dreams better. He's a dreamer. He operates out of the realm of emotion and maybe can be more in touch with his spiritual, intuitive side. And so he is very open and receptive to receiving the messages from the High Priestess. I think she would be able to teach him much.
In a way, we sort of thought that maybe the Page of Wands was one of the more perfect apprentices to the magician. The Page of Cups is one of the more perfect apprentices to the High Priestess. There's a natural fit there. And remember, pages are young people who could be of either gender. We tend to say he more than she, but this person, no matter what their gender is, their qualities are a sense of innocence and dreaminess and mystical revelation of a sort. To some degree, they have a Piscean kind of ambience or nuance about them, and they are a perfect fit for the High Priestess. They would literally sit at the feet of the High Priestess, and they are better disposed to understand on that deeper level of the subconscious what the High Priestess is actually talking about.
Sunny just dive bombed our reading area again.
And Sunny did that so quickly.
It shocked all of us.
It shocked us. We were shocked. Shocked, I say.
Okay. So, moving on now to maybe a couple of the more difficult ones to navigate with the High Priestess. I would say this about the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords is very logical minded and very analytical. And so he would be taking a lot of that information that the High Priestess has to give and trying to find the rational explanations for it all. He's curious for sure, but maybe not so much curious as to trying to bring it down into more earthly terms. Perhaps he would be somebody who would be trying to take all of the High Priestess's teachings and look at the quantum mechanics behind it all, or the physics or whatever, and try to put it in those terms.
The qualities of the Page of Swords to me are also about the sense of tactfulness and diplomacy, and that in some ways, just as all of these persons are to some degree messengers of a sort or communicators of a sort, with his communication, or the Page of Swords communication level, is really about everything being shown in an appropriate light. So the Page of Swords, although maybe very articulate and able to tell a good tale, would never be the one to say anything untoward about the High Priestess or her teachings. In other words, if the Page of Swords actually had, if this kind of quality actually did not resonate really well with the High Priestess, they would never defame her publicly. They would sort of be tactful and diplomatic and basically move on.
And here comes the Page of Pentacles. And what can I say about this guy? He's so grounded into the earthly realm and materiality that I am really unsure he would get it, except for, and also in his negative aspects, he could actually be kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say boring or dull, but I'm just not sure he would really carry the enthusiasm for the teachings that she has to offer. How do you feel
I'm kind of
about
50-50 with that, because I sort of feel that this is the natural scholar of sorts, or the natural perseverer.
It's true.
It just could be that maybe they're more of a career student, and so they're just there to get their grade, and that they haven't really fully absorbed those teachings. They could have, but maybe they don't absorb them and relate to them in the same way that the Page of Cups might, being that more intuitive person. So this person, to me, I don't think they're a bad person, but I sort of feel that what they have is, you know, you go to like an event and somebody's talking about their knowledge of subject blah, 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 and then somewhere in the third row from the back, about 7 or 8 seats down, a person stands up and immediately challenges them and says, da 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 da, blah 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 is not blah blah blah, it's blah blah blah. And I hate those people. I hate people who go to an event where somebody has been paid or has volunteered to share something of themselves, like the High Priestess, and then another person says, I saw something about that on the internet and I know more about it. Oh well.
Well, I would just say again that I think it's just a matter of what the High Priestess has to teach him. He's not that into it. There are teachers further along the route that I believe he will definitely be more an ardent student for. I'll just say that.
And it could be that that's the dichotomy between the earth-based kind of solid nature, good-natured person, and the fact that the High Priestess really talks about things that are sort of up there and a little bit more airy, and they're not unreal. It's just that they're not as accessible to those of us who are struggling for a living or engaged in other pursuits.
And guess what? Now we're up to our final card, and that's for today, and that's the Empress.
The pages are now roving on to meet the Empress, and they have heard about this woman, this incredible woman, and of course they're all thinking a few things about her that maybe are savory or not so savory. So let's get started with that.
She is a creatrix, and she's beautiful, and she's full of life and creativity, and she teaches lessons about how to create in your life, how to create things and how to produce things, and the harmony with nature and the earth she will teach them lessons about. And I would say for the Page of Wands, who's got a staff that of course has growing things on it, he definitely is enthusiastic about meeting the Empress and taking in what she has to teach him and appreciating the nurturing motherly qualities that she has. So I think he will be a very good student here and a good steward of the earth.
He's a natural fit for approaching the Empress, mostly for all those reasons she said. I think that he is the person who resonates the strongest from these four, perhaps, to that message, because it is about the growthful things. The Empress talks about the kind of projects that are real and that really happen, and the kind of thoughts or things that are being seeded and birth forth, bloom forth. And that's a lot about what he's about. And because he is probably more of the communicator messenger of any of the four, then he's almost perfect in that regard too, because perhaps what he brings to her is that kind of thrust towards conception.
Since he is about spontaneity and coming up with ideas and innovation, the Empress will guide him on that path, showing him how to be more creative, how to use his skills to bring forth positivity into the world. Okay, so now we're up to the
Page of Cups.
Page of Cups.
The Page of Cups, to me, is also almost a natural approach or resonator to the Empress. Mostly, in my opinion, just because the water element does kind of pull forth from the more emotional and what in our society or Western society we consider to be feminine types of emotionality or being. And so he's more at home with those kind of qualities, maybe more feminine qualities. And of course, the Empress is literally the archetype of feminine qualities. So the message he gets from the Empress when he visits the Empress, I think, is just only confirming what he feels, that conception and birth are a grand thing, and that what he brings forth is what he wants to bring forth is more an appreciation of mystical and philosophical elements, concepts.
The Page of Cups is water, and I'm glad you brought up the elemental association, because in a sense, the water and the earth, what a perfect combination. The earth needs the water to grow and produce things. And so they are a natural together. The Page of Cups is a dreamer, and the Empress can guide him into how to turn those dreams into a beautiful reality. So I think, she can teach him much, and also show him that the qualities of nurturing are within him as well, because he has that water emotional element about him. So he too, can nurture these dreams into fruition. She'll show him how to do it.
The Page of Cups is clearly the most resonant to the Empress's story or situation.
The Page of Swords. The Page of Swords, I'm not sure how I want to say that. Do you want to go first on the Page of Swords?
Okay, well, the Page of Swords talks about the qualities of balance and tact and diplomacy and skill and grace. And the Empress is a part of that in a way. There's aspects of that there, but they're more magnified. They're fewer than those ones, and they're more magnified. They are literally about the process of conception and gestation and birth. And so possibly what the page can do, or what he can learn from there, is he learns grace under pressure, because there is nothing harder in the world than birthing a child or birthing other kinds of children. The children of our mind or the children of our work are also difficult processes too. Anything that you fully invest yourself in and you nurture and you try to make that thing grow and be the best thing possible, that is accentuated by the Empress energy. And so the Page of Swords coming there learns that patience and that skill and tact of dealing with that situation, that guiding it along with your willpower, which is of course indicated there, is one thing, but also being able to wait it out and be patient and build for that.
I was very patient. Just teasing you. So, okay, so yeah. The Page of Swords, to me, if the Empress is going to show you how to be more creative and how to advance your causes through creativity, the Page of Swords is looking for a system or a method to do so. So, like, he's going to be writing down notes. He's going to have step 1, do this, step 2, do that. He looks at his his approach to being creative and putting some new ideas out there is planning and putting them out. So I feel, he's a little bit more plotting in the progress, in the way he would deal with the lessons he would be learning from the Empress.
I can accept that.
Well, the Page of Pentacles. The Page of Pentacles is Earth, in a way. There he is with the Pentacle of Earth and materiality. And he maybe does want to think about his creativity in terms of what can be produced out of it, what bursts forth, what springs forth. It's all about bringing things to fruition for him. And I think that the Empress, of course, would guide him in that manner, but also try to coerce him to be a little bit more spontaneous than he is. Because I think out of all of the ones here, he's probably the one that would be the most slow in, producing something new.
But in that respect, being a person of perseverance, then he's also the one most inclined to wait out the results of the gestation and to believe the most in the gestation, because there's sort of the sense of being really shining towards that goal. They're all looking at their objects while one's looking away, but this one, there's just sort of a fervency about him looking at that. There's sort of just that idea that he's really like looking at it and he's waiting for it, or he's trusting in it. He's trusting it. And so the Page of Pentacles probably to some degree represents, once again, that salt of the earth, good-natured kind of sense of trust there. The Page of Pentacles probably asks the least amount of questions, like, Mistress, how much longer? We know the answer to that question, right? Be patient. So, anyways, that
is our court card conversation for today. And I just wanted to reintroduce this concept. And so in the future, I would say to our audience, if you have knowledge of the court cards and these cards, and you have anything to add to our dialogue and discussion about what you would see, we welcome your contributions in the chat.
Because the court card conversations are where everyone gets to be
the fool. Very good.
Okay,
I
so
doing it.
we
I
could
like playing the fool.
Probably switch around our agenda slightly here. If you wanted to go ahead and do the reviews.
Just some brief book reviews today I have for you. Sure, I thought about that. Then we could go into the tarot for tomorrow and open up some time for reading.
Nearly in our last 20 minutes, so that sounds about right.
I don't know how far you'd have to hold this back to see it. My first book is Kitchen Table Tarot. And let me have that back, please, when you are done. Kitchen Table Tarot is by Melissa Sinova, and it is, I just want to make sure I have everything right here. It's 2017 copyright, and it's by Llewellyn Publications. And I will say the Kitchen Table Tarot is basically a conversation about tarot. She just wanted to have a chat with us all about her impressions on the cards. And I really do feel there was a lot to be gained from this. I feel this is acceptable regardless of what level of tarot practitioner you are. This is not geared towards novices per se. I feel this is geared towards even advanced readers. You can find something new. And even if you disagree, I found myself disagreeing on a couple of cards with her, but it's not like a major problem because we all have our own ways of interpreting the cards. She certainly gave you a variety of perspectives on things, and she gives basically the upright and inverse interpretation, and she talks about the cards in groups and clusters, which, like, she'll talk about the energy of the fives and the sixes, and so that you have that before you go into learning about the fives and sixes. So she basically breaks it down by talking about the major arcana first, and then as she gets into the minor arcana, she talks about all the aces together, the twos, the threes, the fours. So you get the energies, you get the energy of the numerology and the interpretations, as well as the interpretations of the individual cards. I like that. I like that way of learning the tarot and breaking it down. So I highly recommend this book for any level of practitioner. I found it very engaging to read, and a good book for any level of practitioner. And in that regard, I have another book here, and this one is called I'll have him hold it up in a minute. Madame Pamita's Magical Tarot, Using the Cards to Make Your Dreams Come True by Madame Pamita. And it's a Red Wheel Wiser book, published in 2018. And despite what you may think of it, using the tarot for fame and fortune or whatever it says, and despite the name Madame Pamita, do not think this is kind of a mamby-pamby sort of book at all. Never judge a book by its cover, I have to say.
She looks pretty
Don't
serious.
judge us by our covers.
She looks like a serious piece of work.
We may look old, but at least in my case, I'm very young at heart. And so I would just say to you not to judge this harshly. This book I was totally enchanted with. I read it cover to cover. And I do think it could be for any level of practitioner, but I think advanced practitioners will get a lot out of this. If you have a real good grounding of the meanings of the tarot card and you're pretty firm in how you feel about them, read this book. She throws some things out there that I felt really turned my head around on some of the ways I read some of the cards. Particularly maybe cards like the Five of Swords or the Seven of Swords comes to mind. She's just very insightful and observant. And the way she works with the imagery here and interprets it, takes it in directions that I maybe wouldn't have gone. But now I see that, yes, there is definitely value with some of the concepts she's brought in. So some of the things she does is basically when she's going through the cards, she'll call it your adventure with the Five of Wands, your adventure with the Hierophant, in that manner. And she starts with the minor arcana first in this deck, and basically she goes through the suits, from ace to, the court cards. I think she does, I want to make sure from ace through 10, and then she does the court cards separately, and then she does the major arcana. And so for each card, not only do you get an overview of the card itself, there is no necessarily upright reversed. It's all in one package here, basically, the good and bad exhibited in the cards. And then she gives you the keys to the treasure chest, which is basically she takes some of the major symbols off of the cards and analyzes them. Like, for example, in the Ten of Pentacles, she talks about the Ten of Pentacles themselves and that they stand for the tree of life, connection to heaven and earth, spiritual, manifesting into material. So she really gives you some bits on the imagery itself and how they lend the texture to the card. And then she gives you what she calls the Wizard's Words of Wisdoms, what the Ten of Pentacles could signify in a reading, for example. And then she gives you Behind the Mysterious Door, journal questions to explore the cards more deeply. So she'll, like, for example, for the Ten of Pentacles again, the question she wants you to answer, perhaps in a journal, is, what have I committed to? How can I feel this commitment? So for each card, she gives you something for you to ponder and think about in more depth. And then she gives you an affirmation for each card as well. Again, I think this is just so well written. Obviously, she is incredibly knowledgeable and just not your run-of-the-mill psychic. She knows her stuff. Very impressed with this deck. This book, totally. So those are my two reviews.
Thank you for sharing that.
You are welcome, and I will always share reviews of things that I like. If I do have some negatives to say, some caveats about whatever I'm showing you, I'll just let you know. But for the most part, anything that I am showing, I'm recommending. And also, for the most part, most of the things that I recommend to you are things that I have purchased and have added to my collection. They're not things that have been given to me for review.
Okay. Thank you for that segment. I guess we're winding down here, so
It's
maybe.
time for tarot for tomorrow, I think. We
Well,
should
I
do
was
that
gonna say-
first and then open it up for readings.
Yeah,
at the
okay,
end.
we'll do it that way. I was gonna say last call. Weren't we gonna do a reading for the cats or something?
Well, we were, but we'll do that
We'll
on
see,
Sunday.
yeah,
I
okay.
think that what I was going to do was my cats were not getting along since this one was out at the kitty hospital. And so we were going to do a reading to see what we could do to kind of bring them back together again. But it seems like slowly but surely they're getting along again. On their own, without my tarot help.
Okay, so this is a reading for tomorrow, Friday, August 16th.
And we will be posting this as well on our Facebook page, which will feed into Twitter.
Do you want to know what I just dropped?
What did you just drop?
The Two of Swords.
Oh.
So tomorrow may be a card about realigning yourself too.
Is that the
That's
card
just a
you want to,
freebie.
well?
No, that's
okay.
just a stray thought there. That some things may need to have patience because you may not be able to see everything that's going on there. I'm going to let Banshee
Let's
shuffle
hold that
now.
thought, because
Yeah,
maybe
let's
we
hold that
will
thought.
throw that into our reading this time.
Yes, because some card readers believe that a card that falls out tends to be important.
In my family, they used to say, what falls to the floor comes to the door.
Kindred spirits.
Sonny is waiting with bated breath for us to pull our card.
Yeah, he looks really excited over there. Hello.
All right,
Cut.
I am going to cut.
And we're really professionals despite everything because we can do this with these cats laying here like this. We don't miss a beat. There we go for tomorrow.
Interesting.
We have finally reached the apex. We have pulled the death card, although it is reversed. Having said that, the death card rarely really talks about physical death. It's really pretty much a kind of transmogrification kind of thing, transformative kind of thing. So, what is the reverse death card for tomorrow? Well, for some of us, we may really find that there's just a lot of nothing good happening. Not like it's bad things happening, but it's just like
A lot of nothing
slowness. It's a lot of
happening.
nothing happening. There's a sense of inertia and stagnation. These are the traditional meanings of the card. But it just really feels like, like maybe you want to do something, but you just can't make yourself do it. You need to go to work out, but you just can't do it. You need to return books to the library, but maybe you can get in tomorrow morning or the following morning before the doors open, and then it won't be late. It's really like sluggishness in a way, slowness to act.
So the death card for a Friday, what does it mean to me? TGIF, you just can't wait for the weekend. So you're at work. Well, I'm not. I'm off tomorrow. But I will say that you're at work and you just can't focus on the work at hand. You're stagnating, you're struggling because your mind is elsewhere perhaps, but also because there is this sense of inertia. You're tired, you're beat. You just want rest.
I'm going to sneeze. It's really wonderful. Trying to stifle.
You just want rest.
Couldn't
and
stifle
you
it.
feel as though
There's one thing I want to say about this card too,
by
which
all
is
means.
that to some degree this card sort of speaks to some societal stuff too. This card is one of those few cards where when you read some of the explanations for it, they say this is really not talking about a personal thing. It could be talking about the environment in general, and it's saying that there's also things that from a political or societal context just really seem to be non-winners, non-starters.
do we want to throw that two of wands in the equation?
Sure.
So what were we saying? That stability, balance, or whatever?
Well, it's sort of like feeling
truce?
like
A
you're just sort of
stalemate.
holding yourself there because you don't really know enough about the
Does fit
situation.
in.
Yeah,
It's like
okay.
there's a stalemate right now, which is maybe why there is this inertia.
Yeah, okay. And basically, what it is the inability to find or understand new information that might be helpful.
Very good. Well, we have some open time now for readings if anybody is interested, and if not, maybe we'll just pull some
Sign off
cards.
early.
Oh boy, you want to get that weekend started already.
Woo-hoo.
I don't know. Stagnate tomorrow. Well, I am off tomorrow, so I would love nothing more than to just take it easy. He's got dropsy, so now something else has fallen to the floor.
It's another two.
It's a two of cups
Oh
reversed.
dear.
Sounds like arguments.
This was clearly in the past. Like about 2.5 hours ago. It's the Two of Cups reversed, and so that does sort of sense that there's a sense of disharmony or frictions in a partnership. It doesn't say necessarily that the partnership's breaking up, but it could be saying there's some disharmony. And if I tied it into anything else, then it's just a matter of not knowing enough to see where you're going, how to proceed.
Well,
That's a mighty nice fan there, Banshee.
I am just going to ask if Sunny is really on the mend, everything is back to normal. Uh-oh. The Knight of Swords reversed. Seems to me there's still some issues, and maybe issues with movements. Could it be bowel movements?
I don't know. The card of the Knight of the Swords in general does have to do with a sense of urgency, but it's usually somebody who's just, provoking themselves into the situation. When it's reversed, it could be saying that this approach is just as likely to cause needless problems or friction or just to cause a bad situation, that it may be a provocation that nets more arguments or more bitterness or disillusion somehow.
Do you think this relates to his stressful nature?
Interesting.
Because he is a little, I think what gets him into trouble sometimes is that he's a little bit of a sensitive snowflake. He jumps at noises. He's a little skitty. And maybe when he got himself a little bit sick last week, he carried it to an extreme because he's so overly sensitive or stressed.
Yeah, I'm not exactly getting that, but I'm not really sure what I'm getting. It just sort of seems like there's a level of maybe frustration and or not exactly sure of his standing.
Well, what do you think of that? He just stood for us. I think he's saying he knows he can stand.
Can I
On
meow at
his
the
own
next
4 feet.
meditation?
His
Can I
own
go?
4 paws. Oh,
Oh, that's just wonderful there. Thank you.
if you heard any sounds, that was him rubbing on the mic. So adorable. I swear he's going to take over our live stream. Well, we don't
Here,
seem to
deal
have
with
any
cards.
questions today, so maybe it's just time to give a few reminders. We'll be back on Sunday, live streaming at 2 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time, and we'll have some more engaging games. We'll also have maybe I won't do
Meditation?
a meditation.
Yes, I
Oberon?
didn't have time to fit one in. It was sort of like if we ran out of things to do, I might have, but we seem to fill up our agenda pretty good. So that meditation will probably be on the next card in our series of moving through the major arcana, and that's the Empress. And we talked about her a little bit tonight. So on Sunday, we'll have a little bit of a meditation, maybe a little bit more philosophical look at her and her values and her situation.
And I have a special treat for Sunday as well. I am going to bring out one of my old divination tools. I inherited a number of divination tools from family members who had passed on, And some of them date back to the 1920s, some are from the 1940s, a number of them are from the 1960s. So I thought I'd give a blast from the past and show some of the divination tools of days gone by. And some of them are pretty kooky, yet fun. So, and informative and enlightening in their own ways.
Well, I guess on that note, we just literally have only about 5 minutes left.
Well,
So,
is there anything else you want to add about the live stream or any? Also, I'm sorry. Let me throw one more thing out there. So remember to check our YouTube page. We will be posting videos from this cast as well. So if you don't want to watch the whole 2 hour live stream, we'll maybe have some segments of it that you might be more interested in watching.
right, I'm a little behind, but I'm hoping to edit the 2 live streams that had a meditation. One was for the magician and one was for the empress. So I want to throw that out there. Probably after today, we will do a little editing on the court card conversations. And so that will be a series that we'll just collect and we'll keep that there. And those may be instructional. We have had some inquiry about people trying to educate themselves more about the tarot. And that's really is one of the goals of our broadcast, is to create conversation so that we can use that as a tool for education for tarot card readers. Remembering too that tarot cards really can have varied meanings, because the art of tarot cards is really learning everything you can about the tarot card. So that means having conversations, being exposed to different ideas, being exposed to different methods and things like that. Because at the end of the day, what we learn from reading tarot cards is how to awaken our inner mind, our inner voice, to enact what the cards are telling us.
And future readings that we do for individuals might also include some of my other cards. As we throw a card for you, I might feel compelled to throw one of my regular deck of playing cards that I use and offer some added insights to the readings. So stay tuned for upgraded readings in the future as well.
All right, so I guess that's probably about it then for this evening. We thank everybody who came here tonight. We know Truth Addict hopefully got some insight into his or her situation, so we appreciate that. We want to thank our wonderful producer, Mr. Monster Hunter. There he is right over there. And also to all those folks who have helped us out, Maori and Tiffany, who have done, Junior Goddess, who have done lighting effects for us and artist effects for us. All of this has been really helpful. We have some nice astrological artwork that we occasionally
Back
show.
there, we will show it again someday when we talk astrology.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you on Sunday for more Tarot for Today.
Divine Dabblings.
Bye-bye.